with the recent passing of Bob Hawke, I think I'll talk about some leadership. Being a leader is about being sought out, about being a person who talks and then takes the action. You know, talk is the cheapest thing in the world, but ultimately action behind it is what's very important. And what made Bob Hawke a great leader was that what he promised, he delivered. And for the few things that he promised that he couldn't deliver, he was dragged down. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm by no way a leftist, nor am I really a rightist. I used to be. I'm sort of have to use the unfortunate quote that Tony Abbott used just for political gain during just around Bob Hawke's death, which is he had a Labour heart with a Liberal head. And I suppose that's like it's what I talk about being a socialist capitalist. It's like mixing a cat and a dog together. Bob Hawke did some really amazing things for this country. And the two things that he couldn't deliver was the famous one around a private treaty for Indigenous, but the second one was around the famous quote that no child, in 1987, that no child will live in Australia in poverty. And perhaps his words, and for that he's been dragged down time and time again, but perhaps his words should have been a little bit different in saying that with the welfare that I've created for people, no child should live in poverty, because ultimately what happened is he delivered the amount that was required for that to happen, but the parents just didn't use it right. And so what I loved about Bob Hawke is that even in these days of social media where politicians are getting taken off ballot papers simply because of something they put in social media in 2012, Bob Hawke, the quintessential Australian who has the record for drinking a yard glass when he was in England and, you know, sculling beers at cricket games. And I always love, and this is a long post, but I always love the fact around a joke that he told at the 30-year reunion of the America's Cup, and he's on stage and he tells this joke, and you can Google this. He talks about the Frenchman, the Australian and the Englishman going through the desert, and they look down and they see this big oasis, pristine lake, and they run down and get their gear off and jump in and swimming around, and the natives come up and they grab these three guys and they take them to the chief, and the chief says, "You swim in," and he does all the accents too, "You swim in our most sacred lake. What we do is we kill you, we skin you, we make canoe out of your skin and float in lake to show other people of the sacred lake. You have one wish." And the Frenchman says, "Well, monsieur, I would like a knife." I give him a knife. He says, "I will not die at the hand of your savages. I will kill myself." Kills himself. And the Englishman says, "Well, chap, like my friend across the channel, I also too would like a knife." Give him a knife and says, "I won't die at the hand of you savages. God save the Queen." And he dies. And the Australian says, "I'll have a fork, please." And everyone's laughing, obviously, at this time, Bob Hawke telling this joke. So the Australian gets the fork and he goes, he says, "You make a fucking canoe out of that now." Now, you tell me what politician anywhere in the world could get on stage at the time when he was a politician or even afterwards and tell that quintessential Australian joke and be loved and revered for it. That's a true leader. When way beyond their passing, you'll think about times where it wasn't the politics, it wasn't the decision making, it was the person who was the leader. I'm very fortunate that I have a lot of people around me that keep me in tune with my ego. And as Bob Hawke said, what was he going to be his legacy when he's left? And he said, "I'd like to think that I'm a person that loves this country, that loves all Australians, and hasn't changed because of high office. I'd like to think that regardless of whether I'm cleaning septic tanks or leading a community to fix a housing problem in Australia, that quintessentially I don't change.